So here I am, Graham Valley Road yet again, and I must say, not filled with confidence with the weather. So we'll just have to see if we get to the top. Know with this road. The last couple of times I've planned on coming up here, shortly before I went, I've discovered the road had either fallen away or been buried. And in fact it was 2 days ago, but at the time I went to inquire they said yes, it was cleared an hour and a half ago. So we'll see how we go today. I'm told it's a bit greasy on the steep section, so I guess we'll know whether the traction control's worth a damn. Well, that's an improvement on my last attempt. This is as far as I got then. And hooray for cattle stops. Road open to 4-wheel drive and vehicles with chains. Cool. And this is the fun part. I don't know if it'll come out on the video, but this is getting steadily steeper, and shortly we will hit the concrete section. I'm not sure if it's steeper than Baldwin Street there, but it is close. And I'm unsure as to whether it actually has to be a street to qualify as world's steepest. Cattle stop. I'm guessing there's going to be a hell of a lot of camera shake in this one. Now, I'm trying to dodge around the rocks, but there's a limit to how much you can do. That lot up there looks like the slip that closed it for several months. So we will keep a really close eye on the uphill side. You can see along here it's just asking for something to fall down on you. Fortunately there's not too much wind and the rain isn't heavy, so hopefully that means nothing's going to come a-tumbling down. And here's a messy bit coming up. Yes, this is the concrete section. It looks like it was hit hard. as I thought it might be. Here we go. Rocks. Up here, that is a driveway. I can see it would have its advantages. It would be a very determined Jehovah's Witness or Mormon that came to visit. It's a fort, but it's not much of one. Mark ahead. Cattle stop. Oh, I thought it was going to be something interesting. Oh, I believe that's the one I ripped the exhaust off my Jaguar on. That was a fun day. lee. The sun. Hardly seen that back in town. This might turn out all right after all. Certain all the camera's getting is glare, but I can tell you it looks very scenic in here. You'll just have to trust me. Here we are. Bloody hell, we made it. This car park was opened by the Prime Minister of the time, Jim Bolger himself, in promotion of a flash new national parks program to promote tourism. It has largely been forgotten ever since. So I guess I get out of the car and onto the next phase, and I'll see you then, internet people. This is the historic Flora hut. It's a nice little thing. A while ago they were planning on pulling it down because the higher ups didn't see the point in a hut that was less than 30 minutes into the national park. But what in fact it is a wonderful little spot accessible to everybody to come out here and have that tramping experience without actually tramping. Nearby is of course Flora Stream, because once you pick a good name you tend to stick with it. So there it is. There's not much to it. We'll go and have a look inside. Both of the cabins are pretty much identical. Mirror images of each other. Old school door handle. Still retaining a lot of heat from the sun because it's skylighted. Little mural somebody's done on there above the fireplace. Still smells of wood smoke, so it was probably used recently. Who was here last? When tramping, always sign in with the hut book. Not just for the sake of staying and leaving a note, but so that if you get lost, people know where you were last and where you were headed. So the last one was in on the 22nd. So it's retained that smell of firewood and that little bit of warmth for 5 days. Simple construction, but obviously beautifully efficient. Yeah. Around here, this is fairly typical of the sort of track you'll see, and if you're lucky you might catch some of the native fauna. And here in fact we have sign of the New Zealand steel-tracked ditch digger, common in many of the more accessible parts of our national parks. You can tell by the distinctive ridge pattern in the tracks. It looks like it was at least a 4-ton model, and has passed through here sometime in the last month at a rough guess. And yes, we see some diggings up ahead. I'm not sure what they eat, but I'm sure we found something in there. This is a little swing bridge along the route for the uninitiated. A quick guide to crossing swing bridges. This is a fairly tame one. Now I'm going to break one rule by not keeping a hand on the railing. The idea is your feet go as close to the middle as possible. And then you just keep walking. Try and walk with the harmonic as it bounces up and down in time with your feet. So if you keep an even pace, it's actually reasonably easy to get across without incident, though results may vary depending on how well built the bridge is. I'm now coming up on one of the coolest places in this park. This is the Gridiron Rock Shelter. Now somebody's built a little gateway here. It was at one point a camp for gold miners or gold panners. They all sort of lived around here. It's just down here a bit. Up and to the left is a side track which takes you to a matching hut. But I'm just going to go to the shelter and I'll get back to you. And here it is. It's a really neat little spot, this. It was built some decades ago by a dock ranger flagrantly flouting the law, or the rules, and essentially building a shelter where there was a history of one, to be fair. You can see that's the water supply, and up there you see the woodshed's empty. Not a good sign. Ensuite. As we go up the hill, you see Doc sort of took the idea and ran with it. There's a little platform with a couple of mattresses up there. And there's the fireplace, table, and another bunk. So see, it's developed a drip. Up the back there are a couple more little dry spots where you can stretch out a bedroll, but nothing official. And there is the original creator in an old wire chair made out of, or a lawn chair made out of a couple of old mattresses. Really is quite a unique spot. There's where that the chair obviously was. You can see it's just a corrugated iron awning jammed into the rock, basically. Lovely view. I'm going to sit down and have a bite to eat and something to drink. And here I'm coming up on Growler Rock Shelter. It really is just a little notch next to the track. Yes, it has its own toilet, as the sign says, and it is the bare minimum required. It's also where I'm going to stop for a cup of tea. Which will of course require visiting the water supply, which is this spectacular waterfall here. Growler Rock has one advantage that none of the other shelters has, though it's not quite so great today. And it's a little overgrown, but it has one of the most awesome views out over the valley. So there it is. The image is a little foggy, but I wanted to talk about some of those special moments when you're tramping. They happen on almost every trip. On this track, the section near the end is just a long, gentle incline going slowly uphill, and it really takes it out of you. It saps your morale. But as you get higher, you see the trees get thinner, and eventually you look through those trees and you see tussock, and you know you've made it to the highest point. The hard part's over. The hut's about half an hour away. The sky may be getting dark and gloomy, but somehow it feels good. And as I walk down here, excuse the camera shake, I'll come out and there's one of those special spots where you walk out of the bush and you see you have been making progress after all. As we come along here, all these beautiful reds and browns, the colours of open ground, high country, and this is Salisbury Open. Well, the first bit of it, I've got one more little thicket to get through, and on the other side of that is a bit more open ground and the lodge. And as you can see, it's raining, it's bloody cold, but I don't care anymore. I feel good because I'm making headway and I'm near the end of the day's walk. So I guess I'll see you at the hut. And there it is. After dark and a little later than I'd planned on, but there it is. It's a lovely hut. Not much to see right now, even thanks to this wonderful headlamp Mum bought me. It's a lovely hut. So I am going to go in and get some lights going. And for the uninitiated, that means candles. And then we'll see about a fire, which sounds just awesome right now. So here I am by candlelight. How romantic. I'm at the hut, I've got the fire going, and from the sound of that rain, I got here just in time. Life is good. Incidentally, I've also got a book. There's a little culture around books in huts which is not held up as well in some places. Often you'll find a book in the hut. You are free to take that book. Often people will take the book as they go tramping and maybe leave it in the last hut when they finish reading it. What you do not do with a book is burn it. Some people seem to think that this is a wonderful supply of dry paper. My view is if you cannot light a fire without burning a book, you really need to go back to school. If you're good, maybe there will be a lesson in fire building tomorrow.